Hey, how's it going, everybody? I wanted to make this video to talk a little bit about how many times I've gotten messages and emails about people asking if they should switch away from Nikon. And I gotta say, based on my experience, I think just wait it out a little bit more. So I've been photographing wildlife for over 15 years now. I've been involved with digital photography using DSLRs for almost 20 years now. And I can tell you, based on my experience, these camera companies jump back and forth with who is in the lead over and over and over again. Now, there are more camera companies now than there used to be. When I first started, it used to be basically Canon and Nikon. And every 3 to 5 years, this would be the case. Canon's the best, everybody switched to that. Nikon's the best, everybody switched to that. And it went back and forth, whether it be resolution or low light capability or just camera functionality. It was like these camera companies were always leapfrogging each other. And this happened over and over again. And thankfully, I've always just been sticking with Nikon, and every time I had the idea in my head of, boy, the Canon stuff is looking really nice, maybe I should think about that, I would just wait a few years, and next thing you know, Nikon is back on top again, or at least that's what the general public is saying. And so this is what happens over and over again. And now the biggest exodus from Nikon is everybody going Sony, 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 Sony. Now listen, I have not shot a Sony camera in person, but everything I've heard, everything I've talked to from people that shoot them, they love them, and that's great. But I want to say, I think you can get great, amazing photos with Nikon too. Look at the photos that were taken years ago. Go back 5 years. Go back 10 years even better, right? Were there some amazing photos taken then? I'll bet there were. And then on top of that, I want you to think about taking a look at all the photos you see online. You know, if you're scrolling through Instagram and you see an amazing photo, is the first thought that comes in your mind, what camera brand was that taken with? At least for me, I can say that is the last thing that crosses my mind. If I happen to find that out, it's an interesting side note. For the most part, I could care less what brand or camera or lens a photographer used to capture the photo. I just care, wow, that photo looks amazing. That's usually all that matters to me, you know? So in the end, I think jumping from brand to brand, or, you know, just having this desire to switch to get the next best, greatest thing. Listen, this gear, this technology, especially with the stuff that Sony's doing and Canon's doing, and Nikon slowly, I admit, I feel like they are a little bit behind technologically as far as specs and features and that sort of thing. All that stuff can help you out. It can make it easier. That's why the top end pros, the people that do it all the time, that's why I use the best gear I can. But it doesn't mean that that is what definitely will make a massive difference in your photography. It won't. If you think switching to another camera brand is all of a sudden just going to make your photography magically better, I think you're going to be a little disappointed. I would suggest working much more on your technique, your field craft, working with lighting, composition, all those sort of things. I can tell you categorically, within the last 5 years, anytime I've missed a shot, almost every time I should say, the thought that crosses my mind is, I wish I had done something different. I wish I had positioned myself this way, or I wish my subject or the bird would have turned this way, or flew in this spot, or the light wouldn't have changed. I'm sure it's happened, but I cannot recall very many or any obvious scenarios where I thought, my camera let me down. That just rarely happens. So in the end, I think spend more time working on your field craft, getting your photography better. Hell, work on post-processing. But don't think switching is going to make it better. Now, if you have a very specific thing, a very specific part of your photography that your camera is constantly letting you down, and switching to another brand is going to make that up, well then I would say certainly look into it at that point. And listen, also, I'm not trying to trash anybody that is switching. If you're switching and you're happy, that's great. But this video is for those of you that are maybe on the fence and thinking about switching and wondering, what should I do? Is Nikon really falling behind? Put more time into the other things and wait it out. Give it some time. Now listen, if another 2 or 3 years from now, Nikon hasn't responded and caught up at least, or maybe even leapfrogged ahead, which I wouldn't be surprised if that happens because I've seen it happen before. If that hasn't happened in 2 to 3 years, well then you're not gonna see me staying with Nikon. I'm not gonna stay with it just because it's Nikon, just because that's all I've ever used. I do want the best tool for the job, but like I said, I don't feel right now that the camera technology is the tool that's limiting me in my creative photography. So that's the message I wanted to share. I hope that makes sense to some of you. For those of you that have switched, I hope you're loving it. For those of you that are on the fence, maybe have some patience, work on some other things, and see if Nikon finally answers with some really good gear in the very near future. I'm guessing based on history it's going to happen. I do love Nikon, and I certainly don't want to switch, so I'm hoping they can come out with the stuff that keeps them on par with everybody else, and who knows, maybe the next camera that they come out with will be better than everything out there. Thanks for watching. I hope that helps some of you out, and I'll see you guys out in the field.